Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie, and today we are back with my brand recap series where I rank and review all the collections that have come out in the past year by specific brands. This video is obviously all about Holo Taco, which there were a lot of releases. I think they released almost every single month in 2025. So naturally, there's a lot to go over, but I will also be sharing what polishes are in my D-stash pile and also what polishes would I buy if I didn't get them in PR. So without further ado, let's just get into it. Starting in January, we got the first collection of the year with the DAVIDsTEA collab. So this was also the first of several limited edition releases this year as well. But this was a little quad of these mixed finish formulas. It did also technically come with a mug, but we're not including that in the ranking or review. But as far as the quad goes, I generally like when Holo Taco does the mixed finishes because there's just a lot more variety there. But from this quad, I would say my top favorite was DAVIDsTEA, which is the teal cream. It is actually the only polish I still have left in my collection because I already de-stashed the other three. Not that they're bad or anything, but they're just not colors that I would really wear that often. So, you know, I didn't think they needed to take up space in my collection. So even though I do only have one left, I wouldn't necessarily rank this super low because of that. I feel like they are still nice overall, like as a little, you know, quad. So I think it's fair to give them a B, right? They're not like my top favorite by any means, but not bad either. Also in January, we had another round of their retiring shades. And this is something that Holo Taco has been doing every January. Christine does a stream going over like the sales data, you know, like the top 10 bestsellers and the bottom 10. But I think the most anticipated part of the stream is seeing what shades are going to be retiring. So in 2025, there were like, you know, a good amount that were being retired, but not many that I was like really upset about. I would say I don't have the majority of the polishes that were here. I only had Orange Drink, Purple Slushy, which were from the OG Linear Holo Rainbow collection. And I guess those two are the ones that I would be most upset because it's just breaking up that rainbow bundle. And I personally feel like that should be a staple kind of lineup for Holo Taco, you know, but I guess they're just that bad of sellers that they're just taking up valuable space. I do also have Not Pressed, which was the olive sort of cream. And even though it is considered like a prugly shade, I actually do like that one. Don't plan to de-stash it. The only one I did buy last year was Crimson Void because it's been on my wish list for like a while since it came out, honestly. But when it first came out, there were some issues of it looking a little too close to dead petals, just not being red enough. So, you know, I always kind of held off on getting it. So once I saw it was retiring, I figured why not get it? But funny enough, it's in my D-stash pile now since Mooncat came out with Heart on a Platter from the Danse Macabre collection. And I feel like I don't need two dark red linear holos. But yeah, the other shades are just kind of like not surprising to me, I guess. Or I don't know, they're just not ones that I care about that much, so I'm not super sad to see them go. Moving on to the month of February, we got the Cottagecore collection, which was a 7-piece lineup of these really muted pastel creams. At the time, I really did like this launch because it was just so perfect for the time that we were in, like being right in the middle of winter and spring. I feel like the week before I had just done a video on my favorite transitional shades going from winter to spring. So it was like a very similar color palette, and being Holo Taco creams, they obviously had like amazing formulas, super pigmented, like near one coaters. But all that being said, now that we are like, you know, more removed from it, I wouldn't say this is like a super strong lineup either, where I didn't love all of the colors, or at least on me, because I know for the pinks and the purple, they were just like a little too muted or like dusty, like with that gray undertone, which again, like can work when you're going from winter to spring, but it's just like such a specific niche, you know, color wise, that I don't really reach for super often, obviously. So I know those are in my destash pile, but I don't plan to get rid of like the blue, the greens, the flower topper. I definitely love that half of the collection a lot more. Fun fact, I was super close to including Skipping Stones in my top 25 list of 2025, but it lost out to ILNP's Flurry, which came out in December, which is a very, you know, similar like light blue kind of color, but Flurry just had this more vibrant like color intensity that I like a lot more. But Skipping Stones still is really, really pretty, so I don't think I'm gonna be destashing that one. When it comes down to it, my favorites are always gonna be like slightly more vibrant and not as dusty. So because of that, I think I would rank this collection a C. Like, they're okay, but you know, just not my favorite. And I think I would really only buy the two greens, even though the flower topper is unique and I don't have another flower topper in my collection. I just don't think I would really reach for it as often, you know? Then in March, we got the Off the Deep End collection, which was like a total 180. It had these really saturated, bold, jelly-based polishes with these glowing iridescent flakies, and most of them had reflective glitter. I'm using air quotes because it's just like the most subtle sparkle of reflective glitter, but I still really like these. I thought they were just like a stronger collection overall. I love the lineup, like the colors are just so good. It's such a perfect like summer release. Honestly, I kind of want to give it an S, but I did already destash the red and pink, so I don't know if that's enough to like knock it down to an A. Like, they were nice for the lineup, but individually, they're just not colors that I would really reach for. I wouldn't buy those. I know the top two that I would buy are Made Me Ink and Don't Be Jelly. I would kind of be tempted by the other two though, because like they are just really pretty. And again, I love how they are as like a set, you know, for doing lazy gradients, for example. But actually, maybe I would skip Wait a Minute because I do already have Mooncat's Maelstrom, and even though they're not dupes, I just personally don't need two teal flaky bombs in my collection. So yeah, it's just like a weird thing. Like, when I actually consider what I would buy, right? Like, that kind of feels like it shouldn't be considered a perfect collection. But when I look at the lineup, I think it's just really solid. So I think I will at least put this in like a high A, maybe a low S. Then in April, we started the month with Born Ugly for April Fools, because this was supposed to be inspired by the ugliest color, but I actually really like this one. It's, you know, kind of a prugly shade, but I think still flattering, especially for fall. I did also buy this one, and I didn't know that Holo was gonna be sending me one either, so obviously, if they hadn't sent it to me, I did already buy it in the first place. I just liked it that much. I think I would give this an A. Like, it's a great polish, just, you know, not my personal favorite. If DAVIDsTEA was released individually, for example, that is an S tier for me. And also in April, we got the Royalty collection, which is another limited edition release. This one was called Disco Cowboy, and I actually thought this one was so fun. It was very like Chapel Roan coated, you know, being super bright and colorful, but also slightly Western. I loved the variety of finishes in here, the color palette, like everything was just there for me, where if I didn't get this in PR, I honestly feel like I would buy the whole collection. Though I do know there is like an aspect of FOMO, because again, this is a limited edition release. But even if it wasn't limited edition, like if they just released this, you know, in the spring or summer, this is one that I would buy it, because like I love the lineup. That being said, I did already destash one of the shades. Linry, if you're listening, close your ears. It was Disco Inferno. It's not because it's a bad polish, like it is gorgeous. It's this fiery, intense orange frosted metal. But as I'm sure many of you know, frosted metals have a reputation for tarnishing. I think some of the colors are a little bit safer, like the reds, like Favorite Sister, while others, usually the more pastel kind of shades, tarnish the worst. So maybe there's a world where Disco Inferno could last, you know, several years. But I already have ILNP's Carved in my collection, which is just another orange metallic flaky. So I feel like it's just close enough, and I didn't want Disco Inferno to be sitting there in my collection and potentially go bad. I just would rather have somebody else enjoy it. But yeah, everything else, absolutely love it. So I think I would definitely give this an S. Then in May, we got the Pixel Perfect collection, which I also really love. This was a 7-piece lineup of their chunky glitter formula in this really cute pastel rainbow lineup. I love when Holo Taco does their rainbow lineups, and it was just so exciting to see them do these chunky glitters this time of year, because usually they'll do the chunky glitters in like the winter because they're just very seasonal kind of polishes, you know, perfect for the holidays, but historically don't sell well outside of that. So I feel like we were just kind of conditioned to never expect these full coverage glitter bombs other than in the winter. So this was a nice surprise. I really love them, even though, again, not always the biggest fan of like the newer glitter formulas. I don't know why, I just don't love square glitters, but because this is like pixel perfect, it just works, right? The theming, the marketing, like I loved all of it so much. So this is another S tier for me. I definitely would be tempted to buy the whole lineup, but realistically, I probably wouldn't do it right away. I think the only one I would get first is Coin Toss, but I think I would maybe like get them over time, if that makes sense, because I don't wear full coverage glitters as often these days, but I still would just like love to have them all because they're so fun. So maybe I would get the rest of them like over Black Friday when they're on sale. And finally in June, we actually got a break. We didn't get any releases. I don't remember if they did anything else in June, but there's nothing, at least in my notes. So we didn't get the next collection until July for their anniversary, which is another limited edition, but this was called Bon Voyage, and it was cute. Like it had this Louis Vuitton luggage inspired collection box, which I thought was fun. And the polishes themselves were interesting. Like individually, I kind of like them for the most part, but I feel like as a collection lineup, it didn't feel super cohesive to me. Although maybe that was the point where it's like, oh, you know, we just want like something different, like they're traveling to different locations. But then again, I feel like Holo Taco does a lot of these mixed finish collections a lot of the time, but they're just more cohesive than this was. So, you know, it wasn't the strongest release for me. I think the only one in my D-stash pile right now is Icon on Board, which is the hot pink Crelly, just because I already have so many other hot pinks that are either like true jellies or creams, and I personally don't need something in between. But from the other shades, I think the one that I would be most tempted to buy is Sky Lounge. That was definitely like my standout from the collection. Also really loved Wanderlust too. I thought that was really pretty. But yeah, I feel like the others I could easily skip. They just didn't feel that special. Maybe I would also be tempted to pick up Unicorn #1 just to see how it compares to other purples with red shimmer. But yeah, overall, it just kind of felt very meh about this one. I guess my biggest complaint is that, like, aside from it being limited edition, they also just pulled this so quickly, where it was only being sold for like 3 weeks before they just took them off the website. I don't think any of the polishes even sold out, and that just really sucked to see, because obviously, like, I get the nature of limited edition means not lasting forever, but for the longest time, I feel like Holo Taco has been struggling against beating like the FOMO allegations, and this just did not help, and this was their own choice. So yeah, I'm kind of torn between giving this a B or a C even. I think it's like the, you know, retroactive FOMO that makes me want to give it a C, so I don't know how fair that is, but I guess for now, I'll just give them a B. Then in August, we got the Camping collection, which was kind of like their proper fall release, and this had another mixed finish lineup. While I think the theme is so fun and unique, and while I love Off the Grid, it is like one of my favorite magnetics they've ever come out with, I just feel kind of meh about the rest of them, and I don't know what it is, because they're not bad polishes. Like, I guess my next favorite is Boom Toasted, which is that golden iridescent kind of shimmer. Maybe I would also be tempted by Shooting Star Taco just because it's a very cute topper, but you already know I have and love Fauve's Stargazing. So I definitely don't need another star kind of glitter topper, but it's definitely cute to have because at least this one is a little bit more dainty in the sparkle. The greens in this didn't do it for me. The metallic is giving more of like a Christmas color. I mean, I guess now that I look at it, it sort of reminds me of like the off bug spray cans, you know, just being this like really bright green. But then the green Crelly is just so not interesting to me. And yeah, I don't really care about the other shades either. So this is one that I feel like, yeah, maybe I should give a C or at least like a low B, where they're definitely above Cottagecore. I like the, you know, range a little bit more, but it's just kind of like the colors that are a little hit or miss for me. The only one from this collection that I had in my D-stash pile was the green metallic, but I did take it out to use it in some holiday nail art because I thought it looked like the perfect visual texture for like sugar. Like I used it in a cookie nail art video. And again, it's like the perfect holiday green, but I don't think it's worth keeping a whole bottle when I only plan to use so little of it. So maybe that should go back in the D-stash pile. Then in September, we got the Holo Renaissance collection, which was a 6-piece lineup of these jewel-toned crushed holos. I have been waiting for them to do a release like this because I generally like their crushed holo formulas. I know that can be very divisive. I personally think they are very pretty, and I liked a lot of the colors in here. Like we got some color dupes for Plum Luck, which is one of my favorite shades. I think the other color dupes were the teal for Starry Eyed and Small of the Earth for Midnight Spark. That's the only glitter that like I don't have from them, so I couldn't do like a comparison. But we also got a red, a forest green, and a gray. I'm honestly torn between putting these in A or B because again, like I love the finish and most of the colors. If anything, it's the theme that's like the least exciting to me, where I don't know, I don't fully get the vision other than just like the references to the names. And the only one that's in my D-stash pile is the red, just because I don't like that shade of red. There's usually a lot of that with Holo Taco shades where there's something about the color that's just like not quite what I want it to be. But yeah, even for the other colors, I think the only one I would really be tempted to buy is Vine to Table because it's just the crushed holo version of Plum Luck, and maybe Far From the Tree because I feel like that's also kind of a unique color to my collection, and I would realistically wear that a lot more than like the teal or the blue, for example. Like they are gorgeous shades, but just not ones that I would really reach for super often. So yeah, I think I'm gonna put them in B. I feel like I spent way too long just thinking about it. We'll just keep it there. Then in October, we got the Holoween bundle, which I'm going to be including the one limited edition shade from that release as a part of it because that's how I reviewed it. It's obviously not around anymore, but the other shades are permanent and going to be a part of their normal catalog. So for this release, I was initially really excited about it. It just has this very traditional Halloween kind of lineup, which I think is so solid. Again, we have a variety of finishes, but as I'm sure you already know, the fact that there are 2 Crellys in this lineup just really knocks it down for me because I am not a fan of Holo Taco's Crelly formula. I think I'm also realizing I'm not the biggest fan either of that super micro flaky metallic finish that we saw in Thirst Trap, the red shade here. It's the same as the green from the Camping collection, the teal from DAVIDsTEA. It's also technically the same as the blue Sky Lounge from the Bon Voyage collection, but that's the only one that I've liked so far. Maybe it has something to do with the color as well, because at least for this one, for Thirst Trap, I remember just not loving the shade of red. It was a little too bright and Christmassy for what I would consider like a Halloween blood red, you know? I feel like the more standout or unique kind of shades were obviously the thermal, but that one technically maybe shouldn't count because it was like a limited edition release that was, I think, like Christine's birthday polish. And so it was launching alongside the collection, but it's not really a part of it anymore. From the actual collection, the only other ones were the Trick or Trash shade, the black jelly with the rainbow flakies, or their black to red multi-chrome, but like obviously We've seen that done to death already. So, you know, it's not like an exciting lineup. It's just solid. So I feel like this is just another B for me. Then in November, we got their mini advent box, which included 8 nail polishes and then a couple of other like nail tools. I'm only really going to be focusing on the polishes for this, and I guess technically like the packaging, but the rest of the tools or products are just sort of irrelevant when it comes to like me ranking them, if that makes sense. And this is another tough one because the polishes themselves were nice. I mean, there were a couple of shades that I was upset by because I just didn't think they're special enough to be considered like limited edition shades, because I don't remember if I mentioned, but this was also the last limited edition release of 2025. And yeah, that's just one of my gripes with Holo Taco is like, not only do they do so many limited edition releases throughout the year, but also some of the shades I feel like just shouldn't be limited edition. And I think it's just unfair because then that sort of puts the onus on the royalty to vote those shades back in when they just should have been part of the catalog like in the first place, you know? Because now so much of royalty is going to be voting for like gold scattered holo to come back, but if it was already a part of the catalog, like a permanent release shade, they could have voted for something else, you know what I mean? But anyway, I'm getting on a little tangent there. So as far as the advent box goes, it was a nice collection. Like, I love, you know, the theme of it, obviously. I think that's really like helping push this to a higher tier for me. The polishes, you know, for the most part, I do like them. There were just like a couple that aren't my favorites that are in my D-stash pile, like Wreath Havoc Taco, which is just, you know, a multi-chrome flaky that is in a colorway I don't usually wear, but I love the other 2 toppers. And then as far as the other polishes go, there weren't really any unique shades, like maybe to my collection at least. The most unique one was Ice Angel. Technically, I don't have anything like Pirouette Pink either, but again, it's just like something about the color that's like slightly too muted, you know, just not perfectly what I would want. And then for the other shades, I already have something similar enough, you know? And it is definitely a lot harder to talk about like whether I would buy this or not, because I would have to buy the whole box. I can't just buy individual shades. I know that this is like an expensive box, but I feel like there is also a lot of unfair discussion around that sometimes, where people say like, okay, well, it costs $120. There's 12 products. So that's like each product costing $10, and that's just overpriced for, you know, the sizes and everything. But that's just completely like not counting for the gorgeous packaging, which I think is supposed to be a part of the advent box experience. So like, don't get me wrong, it is very expensive, not something that's typically in my budget by any means. But if I had somebody in my life, like a sister who was just getting into nail polish or something, I mean, obviously I would just give her whatever extras that I had from my collection, but I feel like this would make such a great gift for somebody who is just starting out and assuming you have the money for it, you know? It's expensive, but it is giving that Holo Taco bougie luxury price point and quality. So, you know, maybe not for everybody, but I think because of that, I would give this one an A. And lastly, in December, Holo Taco gave us their Declassified 003 collection. Obviously, based on the number, this is the 3rd year of them doing this Declassified sort of release, which are just these prototype polishes. This year, it was a little quad, but I feel like the years before, it was at least 5 polishes. So, you know, kind of sad to see like 1 less this time. And this was interesting. I mean, again, we have like, you know, these different finishes. Like, they're not supposed to be cohesive by any means. They're just these random prototypes. My standout was Cool Ranch, which was a prototype for the Disco Cowboy collection, which, as I already talked about, I loved that lineup. I definitely think they made the right choice of not including this shade because it just does not fit with the others. I am glad that they released it so, you know, people can just get it separately. And my second favorite is Sea Kelp, which is the flaky bomb that was the prototype for Off the Deep End, which again is another like favorite collection. Those 2 are the ones that I would be most tempted to pick up because they're just more unique to what I have. The other 2, you know, can easily skip them. I mean, even the cream is just kind of crazy that they released because it's just it's a cream. I feel like it was such a waste of a spot when there are so many other sparkly prototypes that they have made, I'm sure. I guess I do also really like the teal glitter. I don't remember if that was supposed to be for Pixel Perfect or it's just a teal glitter, but I do like that one too. So since I like most of the collection, I feel like it would be unfair to give it a C tier. So I think I'm gonna throw it at the end of my B tier, which I know is already pretty stacked. Hopefully everything will fit here. Yeah, this is pretty much my final ranking for all of Holo Taco's collections from 2025. I'd love to know what you think of my ranking. Do you agree with them? What are your top favorite collections of the year or your least favorites? I generally liked Holo Taco releases, but they also just feel very like average to me, which I know might be hurtful to a lot of like Holo Taco fans. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean when I say this. This is just, you know, my personal opinion based off of what I have in my collection, you know, my personal tastes. I think a lot of their themes are very fun, but the polishes themselves, like while they are great quality, you know, usually aren't super exciting, which I get makes sense because they are such a big brand. But yeah, it just kind of feels like they're that perfect gateway brand to bring people in from like the mainstream drugstore like customer base into more indie sort of polishes or brands. So, you know, not bad by any means, just not always the most exciting. It's just kind of very average. And like I already mentioned throughout the video, my biggest complaint with them is just how many limited edition releases they do. On one hand, I get it because, you know, they are fitting for the special occasions like the anniversaries, the royalty releases. Obviously, collabs are going to be limited edition, but because they have like so many things and they're spread out throughout the year, it can just kind of feel like a lot. So I am kind of glad that Christine is going to scale back a little bit, at least, with not doing any more limited edition like birthday polishes. It definitely was fun while it lasted, but yeah, it is a lot if they already do a limited edition release in late summer for their anniversary and potentially, you know, something for the holiday season. I really do wonder what their release schedule is going to look like for 2026 because it would be nice to see them scale back a little bit. Maybe not to Mooncat's level where they only had like 5 collections, but almost every single month is just really overwhelming. So yeah, make sure you let me know what you think down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.